Here we are. Welcome if you're visiting us today. So fun to have you with us. We are several weeks now into John's Gospel, which we've been opening a little bit each week, and for the last 2 weeks, and then for the third week today, we're really diving into John chapter 4, which is the story of the Samaritan woman at the well, and clearly the well is an important thing for us as a church. That's why we're diving into it. And so the first week we looked at Jesus, who offers us living water, and then that really Jesus loves to meet our greatest need, and he doesn't let anything get in the way. Not anything in our history, not anything that we've done, not anything that we haven't done. There's nothing that gets in the way of God's work in our life. And then Jared last week took the next bit of the story where Jesus really calls the woman into a whole new way of life. And so this week, let's see what happens next. I'm going to read from John chapter 4, verse 27. Just then his disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with a woman. But no one asked, "What do you want?" or "Why are you talking with her?" Then, leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, "Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" They came out of the town and made their way towards him. And then we'll just jump ahead to verse 39. You can read the rest of it at home. Many of the Samaritans from the town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. "He told me everything I ever did." So when the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed 2 days. And because of his words, many more became believers. They said to the woman, "We no longer believe just because of what you said. Now we've heard for ourselves, and we know that this man really is the Saviour of the world." I love it. This is absolutely one of my favourite pieces in the whole of Scripture. This woman who, we've been calling her Photina because the Eastern Orthodox Church call her Saint Photina. It's just nice to have a name. I've got no idea if Photina really was her name. It's not in the Bible, but just for the sake of it, we call her Photina. And she tells everyone that she meets about this Jesus who she's just met. She's the first evangelist in the whole Bible, the first person trusted to go and tell others about who Jesus is, which is, fascinating in itself, given that she's a woman, but which was like slightly random for that sort of time. But then the people that she meets, they then meet Jesus for themselves, and he transforms their lives too. And they say, "We no longer believe just because of what you said. We've met him for ourselves, and we know that he's the Saviour of the world." Just love it. So I've got a little bit of a confession to make, which is that in my teens, when I was doing my A-levels, I used to sell double glazing over the phone. Now, this may or may not come as a surprise to you if you've spent any time with me. I don't even know if it's still a thing. Surely the whole world has got double glazing now. I don't know. We're probably mostly done. But I can still remember the script that they gave us that we had to say. And it was something like, "Hello, Mrs. Jones. My name's Paul, and I'm calling from Windows. And just to reassure you, this isn't a sales call. We're looking for homes in your area to feature in a brochure of our work." I don't know whether that kind of thing sounds familiar to you. To be honest, I was absolutely rubbish at it. I think I'm just too honest. Not that I'm trying to say anything about people that sell double glazing. I'm sure there are some lovely people that do that. But we were trained and we were coached that there was a right way to do it. There was a system that you had to use to kind of get people from, "I'm not interested at all in what you've got to say," to, "That's what I need in my life, some more windows." And so things like, if they said, "Oh, our house is already fully double glazed," then what we were supposed to say is, "Oh, is that the front or the back?" Which might seem like a strange thing, because basically you're saying, "Oh, you're lying about having it." But apparently some people used to say, "Yeah, actually, I've just had the front done anyway." Loads of techniques that they taught us in, things like logical arguments that would kind of argue somebody into a corner, and you go, "But you said, and therefore you really do have to have my windows." Or we would sell the benefits. Like, this isn't really about windows at all. This is about, just imagine how happy you'd be sitting in a warm living room on an evening. Or bribery even. "Let us come round to your house and we'll give you something for free." pretty rubbish. I mean, I sort of feel this is... it started out as a fun anecdote and now just feels like I'm sort of cleansing my soul by confessing it to you. But the point is, and you might be wondering what the point is, the point is that this woman, Fotina, she has this life-changing encounter with Jesus, who we know is God, and she becomes the first evangelist. And what becomes immediately clear is that the way that she tells people about Jesus is nothing like selling double glazing. There's nothing logical about it. She's not selling the benefits of what being a Christian is all about. There's no bribery here. There's so much that we can learn from the simple actions of this woman 2,000 years ago. And so I'm just going to make 3 actually really quite quick points, and then I've got a surprise for us. So the first point is this. It's all about Jesus. What does she say? She says, "Come and see the man who told me everything that I've ever done." In other words, come and meet Jesus. There's no flannel. There's no, let me convince you of something, or even like, listen to me, I've got a story to tell. She's not inviting them even into the gang of disciples. She's not offering them the chance to join the loving community of the church. I mean, the church didn't exist, but like into the, she's not saying, oh, come and you'll have such a warm invitation into the family. No, she's not doing that. She's just saying, come and meet Jesus. So simple. Of all the things that she could have said or done, what she does is she keeps Jesus right in the centre. It's not about her, not about benefits or about being in community. It's not a sales pitch. What she says is, come and meet Jesus. So if you're here for the first time, or you wouldn't call yourself a Christian this morning, I mean, I really hope that you enjoy the welcome that you've had, and that you've had a brilliant cup of coffee. We tried to make the coffee nice. I hope that the music has been fun and enjoyable. Your kids are going to have a brilliant time in the room next door, and I guess you could say that you're out of the weather being in here. It's quite comfortable in here. But we want all of that is rubbish compared to the opportunity of meeting Jesus. That's what we want to be as a church, is a church that makes space for all of us to meet Jesus every Sunday. That's the kind of environment that we're hoping to cultivate here at the Well. And likewise, for us, those of us who've been here a while, inviting our friends to church, what is it that we're offering them? We could say, oh, you should join our church. The worship's great. And the pastor, he's so funny and good looking. No. Let's keep Jesus front and centre in all that we're saying to our friends about this place. So that's the first thing. Come and meet Jesus. Then the second thing is, she can't keep it to herself. The sense is that she came to get water at the well, but she found Jesus instead, and all of her priorities immediately changed. She left her water behind when she ran off to tell the others. The water was important, and I'm sure she probably came back to get it later. But part of her transformation from social outcast, if you like, to being the very focal point of God's kingdom at that point in time, involved her having this new calling to tell other people about Jesus. Every summer I have terrible hay fever. Every year it starts a little bit later, and I think I've escaped it for the year. It's the eyes and the nose. Does anybody else get really bad hay fever? Yeah. Probably not as bad as me, but yeah, it's really bad. And it's not okay, 15% of my life I basically spend being tortured by this illness. And the thing is that every year it comes, and every year at least 50 people tell me that I should try eating local honey. And I think it's like they've got shares in a farmer's market or something. No. I want to say, did you mishear me? I just told you I've got hay fever, not like I'm a bit peckish or something. But anyway, but they offer it to me a bit half-heartedly, because I think that they don't really believe themselves that eating local honey is going to make a difference. And secondly, because they probably just read it in the Daily Mail or something. But now imagine this. Imagine if I had some local honey, and miraculously I was completely healed of hay fever, then I'm going to start telling anyone who even sniffs in the summertime that you need to try this stuff. Or I'm going to start looking for people whose eyes look a bit red and bloodshot, and I'm going to be telling them, I'm going to be crossing the road to tell people about this cure. And then frankly, if it works that well, I'm going to start at the beginning, like A in the phone book, and I'm going to start phoning people up and telling them all about it. Do they even have phone books anymore? I don't know. Anyway. I'm going to gossip the news of this hay fever cure all over Swindon. Because if there is a cure, then I don't just want that for myself. I think everybody should have it. Can you see where I'm going with this? That's the point. This woman, she's found the cure. She can't keep it to herself. So that's my second point. She can't keep it to herself. And then my third point. This is how the world has changed. Sometimes I think, wouldn't it be really great if some famous people became Christians? You know, basically, if God was a bit more strategic. If God could maybe save like a YouTuber to get the teenagers, and David Beckham or whoever, I don't even know anything about sport, but like some sporty person to reach the sporty people, and Angelina Jolie to reach the people that watch films, and Jay Blades off the repair shop because everybody loves the repair shop. And then, you know, like 5 or 6 people, they could reach so many people, and yet that isn't how the kingdom of God comes. That's not how it works. God consistently uses ordinary people like Fotina, ordinary people like you and like me to grow the kingdom. And I think that's one of the reasons why John includes Fotina's story. It's because she's an unlikely candidate. It's because she's in many ways the wrong candidate. But God uses her to reach her whole community, and the whole community is changed because she is faithful to the news that she's been given. And thank goodness for that, because if being ordinary or unqualified is the qualification for this, then I've got that. I can do that. We can be the ones to introduce our friends and our neighbours and the other people that we know in this part of town and beyond to Jesus. We get to be a part of rolling out God's kingdom. This is how the world is changed, by people like this woman at the well. Please, Lord, let's see what happens if we do. So that's my 3 points. It's all about Jesus. She can't keep it to herself. And this is how the world is changed. And so here's my surprise. I'd like to introduce Dino. My friend Dino is here somewhere. Here he is. So Dino is somebody that I met, nearly 3 years ago now. And when he was doing the Alpha course at Patton Church. And actually, Dino, why don't you tell everybody what you thought of me the first time you met me?
Well, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm allowed. No. So I met Paul about 3 years ago. And basically, I've been out on a night out. This is when I first became a Christian. I've been on a night out, hadn't gone to bed, was really hungover. And I met Paul. And I remember thinking, this man is the most judgmental man I've ever met in my life. And he was sat there and he was sort of really smiling at me. And I thought, why is he smiling at me so much? And I went home and I thought, if I wasn't just turning to church, this would be a different story. I remember I left, I was so angry with him. And I really hated him at the time. And I told Kirsten, who you'd all know, I was like, I'm not doing Bible studies because I was going through sort of baptism at the time. But yeah, that was basically it. But I think I was passing my own judgment off of myself through Paul.
It's so funny because basically I left thinking that I'd made a new friend, and anyway.
Yeah.
So Dino, you're not from any kind of a church background really at all, are you?
No.
Tell us a bit about your life growing up.
Growing up was kind of difficult. We didn't have much in the way of money or sort of anything like that. My dad was an alcoholic, so any bit of money we did have went on that for my dad. Mum worked a little bit to try and bring the money in, but Yeah, so materialistically, we didn't have much, but we did have an abundance of love, which is something that recently I've really missed. So yeah, that's one thing we did have. We had love, a lot of it, and again, not from a Christian background at all. I remember being 6 years old, and my dad saying my mum used to love telling a story. My dad said to me, "What do you want to be when you're older, son?" And I said to my dad, "I want to be a vicar." And I remember my dad's exact words were over my dead body. A complete atheist, hated anything to do with church. Mum didn't have anything to do with church at the time, even though she had a faith. But it was all took a back seat with my dad. So yeah, growing up was kind of tough, and then I lost my dad at 10 years old through the drink addiction and stuff like that on the 27th of December. So yeah, growing up was real hard, and obviously lost my way. Didn't do school, didn't go through much of school. Dropped out at 15. Was going to join the army. Like, you know, everybody wants to do something, but that didn't work out. So just found myself, in this sort of parallel with being this idiot teenager, and that was pretty much my life growing up anyway.
And how did you come to be at Alpha?
Yeah, so there's a guy I knew who used to live over the corner, used to live over the road from where I grew up. And he'd always offer me to go to these religious things and these sort of Christian things. Like, no, I'm not interested, mate. And anyway, I messaged him this last time, and I said, look, I'm having these weird dreams, and so on, so on. And he said, try an Alpha. I was like, oh, okay. I looked on the website, and I had, like, meal and so on. I had, like, free food and stuff like that. I thought, don't matter how much money you make in life, you don't turn down free food. So, yeah, I went, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I had the best table I think you could have ever have had. I mean, the people that I met on that table are still some of my closest friends now. I mean, you just couldn't have wished for a better introduction into church. I mean, it wasn't without its ups and downs at the start, though.
Yeah, and what kind of questions were you asking on the Alpha course, especially like at the beginning? What kind of things were at the top of your mind?
So, yeah, I remember, the questions I asked were, I didn't really ask many questions. I had a lot of opinions. But a lot of the questions were, you know, if there is a God, why does this happen? Why is there people that abuse children? Why is there murderers? Why is there, you know, the predators out there? So on, which was some of the big topics in my mind at the time. But yeah, I think, but also it was, with Alpha, what I found was it was nice to be able to be open and honest with them and ask anything to say what you wanted. I mean, and they didn't get offended by anything you said, which was good. But I think Alpha's brilliant.
So what changed your mind about Jesus?
That's a good question. Didn't prepare for that one. I think knowing that no matter how bad I've screwed up, he's still there, like a good dad. He's always there through the hard times, the good times, the times you don't necessarily even think he's there. Even before I was a Christian, I now realise he was there. You know, when I was a teenager and I had some real troubling times when I was getting in trouble and stuff, he was there protecting me and took me away from a lot of the bad stuff. And it's not until now that when an adult coming to my 30s, I think, wow, you've been there my whole life. It's the realisation is definitely overnight, but you realise that you want to follow this man, and knowing it's true. I think Nicky Gumbel talks about head knowledge and heart knowledge, whatever it is. But you just know. Once you know him, you know it's true. It can't be untrue. Yeah,
let me just push you a bit on that a little bit. Like, how did was there like a moment where you suddenly sort of thought, oh, this is real, or like, can you remember?
I don't ever remember one big sort of moment. I remember the Alpha weekend was probably the biggest moment, which was when we done the welcoming the Holy Spirit on the weekend away. Sorry. That was the big moment, but I don't think it was ever just one big moment. I think it was lots of little ones. Yeah, I think so.
So Dino, you've now been in the family. You've been a Christian for a couple of years or more. Are you a perfect Christian now?
Yes. No, I mean that seriously, because I think if we define what a Christian is by the person who doesn't drink, have sexual thoughts, doesn't gamble, doesn't smoke, doesn't swear, doesn't get angry, you're looking for the wrong thing. The perfect Christian is all of us in this room that mess up daily, every single day, and still stay loyal to God and still say sorry and realise how broken we are. That is the perfect Christian, not the person who doesn't do that. They're already in heaven. So while we're on earth, we are the perfect Christians. The people that do that.
Yeah. So, Dino, the reason why I've asked you here today is because right from the very beginning, you've been telling other people about Jesus.
Yeah.
Why?
A bit like you just said, actually. So, obviously, you know my story of selling double glazing, but yeah.
I forgot, Dino used to sell double glazing as well.
I did.
Mate, is there anything you'd like to get off your chest?
Not if there's anybody in here that I could get in trouble with. No, so I think when you know something's good, and you know it's good news, you want to share it, right? Like, if you've watched a good movie, you always share that. You know, if you've just watched a new James Bond, for instance, you're always going to tell everybody about it, no matter how good or bad it was. But the better it is, the more you're going to tell. And I think for me, telling people is one of my favourite things to do. I mean, I love evangelizing to people that wouldn't necessarily even talk about God. You know, some of my friends are questionable people, but, you know, talking to them about God and them asking me questions back, it's one of my favourite things to do. It lightens up the soul a little bit as well, I think. You know, it's something that I feel obliged to do. I feel obligated.
Yeah, so just as an example, one of the Alpha courses that was running after you'd finished yours, you invited your mum and some of your other extended family to join us. Were you at all worried about what, firstly about what they might think when you asked them, but also were you worried about sort of trusting us with them, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, I was... So, I mean, I brought my son's mum along, her sister and my mother. I was more worried about my son's mum because she thought I joined the cult at first to start with. And I was like, no, they should really try this, because we want to get our son baptised. So, yeah, I was a bit worried about how she was going to perceive the church. I was more worried about how people were going to perceive my mum, because I'm pretty outspoken, but nothing on my mum. Nothing she says shocked people. But, yeah, I think bringing them along was brilliant, because I think they've just grown now and grown. They've told people, and they've brought, you know, they're bringing people and telling people now. So that was, you know, one of the greatest gifts I've given. I've told them about.
And have you had negative reactions from sharing your faith with people?
Yeah, so family. So my brothers and sisters are all atheists, and quite militant atheists at that. So, you know, I've got sort of two brothers. My older brother's kind of kind, and he's like, yeah, no, it's your faith, you're good. And it was somewhat supportive. My other brother, no. It's like trying to tell him water's wet or tell him it's dry, for instance. You can't talk to him about it. It's a shutdown. And, you know, you have people questioning you, you know, family, friends that will be quite offensive with what they're saying, which is difficult, but, you know, you just turn the other cheek. Don't you get involved in the argument. You get involved in the argument, you just prove them right. You prove their point on you right, if that's the right way to say it. You know, if you sit and get defensive and go, wow, it is true, they already think that anyway. They already think you're going to argue with them. So when you don't argue with them, they've got nothing to fight back with.
Cool. And so tell us about the Alpha courses that you've been running.
Yeah, so I've only ran one. I'm going to run a second one real soon. But I ran one, so the one I ran a few months ago, which I still got to finish. I ran that for my, again, extended family, so my son's mother, her sister, her boyfriends, and another lady, their family friends. And to be honest, running your own outfit's really
I just realised I should have told the story a little bit. So basically, as well as running Alpha in the church, we said to people, like, why don't you just see what you could do? Are there people who would never come to a church thing if the church was running it? But if you ran it, they would come. So that's what we said to the church. And then, so Dino then starts running this Alpha course, and you had like I would say 1 million people, not 1 million people, but like all of these people said yes and joined in.
So yeah, it's about six people. Well, it's been 6 or 7 people, depending on what week it's been. Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, to do it with family has been a bit harder than it is to do it with people you don't know. That makes completely no sense. But when you're doing it with family that you've known for X amount of years, and then they knew you before Christ, and you're trying to tell them about Christ now, it's quite difficult. But I've loved it. It's been, to me, it's been my favourite one, actually. Other than the one I did, the first one I did, it's been my favourite one. Seeing families, the lights turn on families' eyes when you're talking to them about it. And obviously, they're also, so I think what I like about it is that, I say my son's mother is his family aren't from England, they're from Belize, a little country off the coast of Mexico, Central America. So their only sort of interaction with church has been I've got to say, I'll try and use the right word in here. They're taught a lot about how and stuff like that, and drummed into them a lot of fear. Whereas when I talk to them about church, it's about love and forgiveness, which they're not taught about there, which is something actually, and they're obviously a little bit older than me, being a mum-in-law would be. But yeah, so that's been something really nice and really actually positive, being able to talk to them about that, the forgiving side, rather than what they've been taught growing up as kids.
So some of the people here are probably thinking that they can tell, having just listened to you for a little bit, that you're the kind of guy who has got a bit more guts than your average person, and that's how you're able to do this. What would be your advice to people who find that sharing their faith is awkward or embarrassing?
Face it head on. That simple. Walk into the fire. Just do it. I mean, the worst reaction you're going to get is somebody's rude. That's the worst reaction you get. Living in Britain, I probably wouldn't say somebody who's living in another country, but living in Britain, what is the worst that can happen? Someone laughs at you. That is the worst that's going to happen. Thankfully, we don't live in a society where we're punished by death for talking about our faith, So that's my motto in life. Face it head on. Don't hide from it. Just put it out there. I mean, even if you put something on social media, if somebody disagrees with you, maybe this is a sales part coming in. Even if somebody disagrees with you, it means they care enough to even have the argument, which means they're open to the idea. So, facing it head on. I mean, I don't know. I said earlier about, am I allowed to plug, didn't I?
Yeah, go on then.
So yeah. So I started doing my own podcast, a UNE podcast, Unit Inequality podcast, which is basically designed to be what the modern day Christian is. That, I don't have it all together. I'm a single dad. I'm an idiot. I do all the wrong things. I say the wrong things. It's showing what it should be and what it should always have been about not just the super elite going to church, the white middle class people, but it's not just about diversity in terms of race, but also classism. And showing that doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, black, white, whatever. It's for everybody, and this is what the podcast is all about, trying to get people in the outside world to see that actually we're not that different, that we have a sense of humour, that we can... Yeah,
yours is a bit... No.
Wow, I do have a very dark sense of humour, but I think we learn, though. I think teaching people, trying to talk, basically the whole point of the podcast is supposed to be 2 blokes or 2 people sat in the pub talking rubbish, and that we really are not dissimilar from the outside world. If anything, I think a lot of us think we're worse than the people that don't go to church because we know the difference. I know that's for me anyway, true, that if I do something wrong, I feel worse than what somebody on the outside would. That's just my take on it anyway.
It's brilliant. So last question then. Why does this matter?
if it doesn't matter, there's no point. It has to matter. Is it C.S. Lewis from that Nicky Gumbel talks about in Alpha as well, where he talks about if there is no God, the Bible's of no importance. But if there is a God, it's of if there's no God, it's of no importance. If there is a God, it's of infinite importance. So it's at the end of the day, it is the most important thing in the world, whether we're wrong or right. If we're wrong, we're wrong. That's it. If we're right, we've gained everything. But if we're wrong, we've lost everything. And I want everybody to go to where I hope we go. And, you know, especially with what's happened in the last couple of months, it sort of highlighted that a little bit as well, that the importance to me has grown. Yeah, my faith has stumbled a little bit, but I think it's of the most infinite importance above anything else that we do have this faith. We have to. Because without it, the world goes to pot. You know, a lot of it is just keeping strong with it, and just the importance is, I keep saying infinite. There is no number to it.
Dino, thank you so much for coming along this morning.
You're welcome.